Hello, everybody. It is so good to see you. We are back. Yay. And I want to thank you again for giving me the time to kind of recharge my batteries. Ann is here. Bonnie's here. Polly, Marsha. Oh, look at all these wonderful people here. Fantastic. Oh, let me see. Marsha, first person here. Lisa's here. And Polly. Oh, Bonnie. Michelle the quilter's here. Oh, it's so good to see all of you. That is wonderful. And Anne, I need to find my underwater quilt to show you. I was going to show you. Here is I did all the color blocking, but unfortunately I put it right under a light. So it's washing it out. But I put a picture on the site to show everyone because I got it all color block. Now comes my least favorite part, which is zigzagging with clear monofilament thread, zigzagging around each of the 450 shapes. But I'll get that. So Betty Middleton is here. Edwinice is here. Hello. Mitty is here. Pat is here. Pat, did you think about getting signed up for our class? Our Judy Lilly, who we love, has got a really pretty birch forest class for the landscapes. It was tough to choose, but I said, well, what is something it would take the bravery of a class to get me to do? Oh, well, thank you, Bonnie. That is so sweet. Yeah, I should get up. I'll go get it in a minute and try to show you because it's right under a fluorescent light. Well, could that be any worse? So Denise Winks is here. Woo! Georgette is here. Hi. Indiana, PA. My son went to 1 year of college at IUP. Yeah, that is wonderful. He was in the marching band and he loved it. So you've taken, you're still deciding. Okay, good job. I know there are some great ones this year. I had no trouble picking the top 3. Lisa on here and I are really hoping we get in the Edita Sitar Alaska quilt. And it's going to take me a while to figure out what colors I want to make it. Mark said, why don't you just go with the colors on the picture? Because that's what drew you to it. And I'm like, yeah, but you know me, I feel like I have to try something a wee bit different. But, it's so good to see all of you. You were in the me too. I was in the marching band, played clarinet, got tired of busting my lip by stepping in a pothole on the field, so then became a majorette. I know, go ahead and make fun. But I tell you what, I like being one of 7, a little bit better than being one of 150. So you Googled the pattern and saw some different colorways. Ooh, well, I'm definitely going to be looking because I just think I want to try something different. I don't know. We will see. I might just go with Mark's suggestion. I've always wanted to make a blue and brown or blue and tan quilt anyway. Your son was in marching band and both of your sisters were majorettes. Oh, that is so cool. Let me see if I still have my photo here. Oh, here I am. I told some of y'all on Sunday that my nickname by some of the boys was Big Red. I am 5'7", but there were other reasons too. But there I am, and there is our band. We were the fabulous Marching Cavaliers. I went to Princess Anne High School in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So, to look like that again. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I said, if I could just go back and be in that shape. Because when you're in marching band, you're in good shape. We practice so hard. Oh, thank you. But I've changed since then. I told Mark, he didn't meet me until almost 30 years after high school. Sorry, Mark, you missed that. She's long gone. So, oh, that's great. You played trumpet. Oh, Pat, I love it. I love it, Pat. Oh gosh, I admire girl trumpet players because I was a little chicken. I wish I had played the French horn, but I did the clarinet and I was like, hey. But oh, what fun! So you were the Highlanders, and I think, did you go to school in Virginia? Because oh gosh, my 10th grade year, we we went to Philadelphia and marched in Veterans Stadium. We went to uh, Shenandoah, the Apple Blossom, the Winchester Apple Blossom Festival, and like won everything. It felt so good. But we had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful band director, and he passed a few years ago. And I tell you what, they don't make them like him anymore. And we had so many members that ended up really making a name for themselves. So it was a wonderful experience. You wanted to play the French horn too? I know. I think the clarinet was much cheaper. But I have a little overbite, so the clarinet didn't do me any favors. But that is too funny, too funny. All right. Well, I'm excited. We're back. I think when we got ready to give Deb a break, we were working on, and I didn't bring it down, we were working on the triptych, I think. Is that what, or were we still working on the beach quilt? I don't remember. But we got a new project. So when I start a landscape project, the first thing I do is find a piece of muslin. And if you like landscape projects, I suggest you buy yourself about 5 yards of a pretty good quality muslin. And I was busy yesterday. Today, I worked on emails a lot. So I didn't get anything started like I told myself to do. Y'all, sometimes I can, as we say in the South, sometimes I'm a mess. All right. So I'm tearing this a little bit bigger than my pattern. I'm starting us with something not too outrageous because you know how sometimes I get kind of in a little deep, and we want to be successful. We've got a couple new people to landscape and art quilts. So it's best not to overwhelm yourself, because if you overwhelm yourself, you're liable to run screaming and not want to ever do it again. So it is so nice to be back here and see you. Any tips or suggestion for someone who's just starting out with ink tints pencils? Absolutely. Practice, number one. But don't use water. Use aloe gel, is pretty cheap from Walmart, or get little bottles of textile medium. I don't know if I have mine over here anymore. I've been cleaning up. I always keep a little bit over here in a bottle. This is my textile medium. But don't use water. And let me tell you why. When I first got my ink tints, I took it camping and I didn't know anything about aloe gel, or about textile medium. And so I was working on a picture and it ran so bad. And I thought, well, this is terrible. How do some of those people do it? Well, what you have to do is very just do very light. Stay just within the line. Draw something somehow with chalk or anything you can erase later. Stay just inside the line. Some people do a slightly darker outline, but you might want to save on that. But just do very light, gentle touches. If you want it to be some pieces, like let's say it's a flower and you're on the petal and you want the center to be a little bit lighter, then don't actually put the actual strokes from the pencils, okay? Because then when you dip your paintbrush and use a small brush, a small enough one to stay well within whatever borders you're working on, dip it only into the textile medium or the aloe vera gel, and then gently, I take my brush. Let me, I can give you a visual here real fast, but let's say, and let me grab a paintbrush. Thank you for asking this because I love when people ask. Pretend this is the flower petal and pretend that you have taken and done the ink tints pencil around the edge and decided to leave your middle open. Then you dip your brush in. Now you can wet your brush first and just kind of wipe it off, and then dip it in the textile medium or the aloe vera gel and start on the outside and brush towards the center and go around the whole thing, brushing towards the center. That will help you keep it from running into other areas. Now, if it's critical that you don't run into other areas, you can use some of the Elmer's clear gel glue, and you can put a fine line around a shape, let it dry thoroughly, because if it gets wet again, then it can run. But you shouldn't have to if you just practice. Practice starting with a light hand. You can always come in and add a little more. Very hard to take away. And just make sure, you can always come back. One thing is once that shape is wet with the textile medium or the aloe vera gel, you can come back with the dry pencil and you can add some little touches and excitement. And I'm hoping I have helped you understand that. Oh, I can't wait to see it, Miss Denise. Oh, Miss Denise, I think you were the one that had sciatica problems too. This exercising on the elliptical trainer is helping, but sciatica is not easy. It gets better by such slow increments, and you're like, please. But anyway, I'm back to trying to be more consistent with exercising twice a day. Twice a day, I don't have to do it as long, and it's not as painful. But anyway, I hate exercising. But anyway, so I hope I've answered some questions about the ink tints. Don't over sharpen them. Every time you sharpen them, you waste some of that valuable ink. In fact, some people keep little baggies, and when they sharpen them, they put the sharpening parts. Yeah, I've had an elliptical trainer so long, for 20 some years, and it's just now showing some wear and tear. But, oh God, that's funny. But I like elliptical trainer because with arthritis, it's easy on the joints and it's in front of the TV. So okay, if you want to watch TV, go. But my daughter's doing so good. She's walking on her treadmill for 40 minutes at a time. She has this favorite show, and that's the show she watches when she's on the treadmill. So that's great. But I've got to do something. I can't carry this weight anymore. It's just too hard the older you get. So it'll, as long as I exercise every day, I'm happy. But all right. But I hope if you have any more questions about ink tints, then so, Linda. I mean, Lisa, boy, my vision is a little blurry today. Honey, that's wonderful. Yay for Lisa. Oh gosh, that's wonderful. So anyway, oh, and I worked on this Elna. Remember I told you it was acting up. And so I cleaned it out. We took off the hard plate and just checked it and reloaded everything, new needle and all that, and it's working fine. I think the thread had gotten caught on this little spring, so we had pushed that back in. I know, I'm so proud of Lisa. That's wonderful. I got my sciatica at Myrtle Beach last year because I told myself before I went, you better exercise. You're going to do a lot of walking. And I didn't. And so now here, 9 months later or 8 months later, I'm still in pain. So, all right, I've got a bunch of stuff here. And in fact, that table is part of the fabric I still have left to put away. And I'm going to tell you, I find the best excuses not to get down here and finish cleaning this room. So, shame on Deb. While I was drawing patterns yesterday, and this is my golden threads paper that I bought when I first took the first class from Miss Judy Lilly. And I really do like this. You can draw on it, you can erase it. So it's kind of tough in its own way, but it's see-through. And, you can see my hand through it. And it's really nice. But I took and drew the pattern for the new triptych. And I can't wait. This Sunday, I'll show you that. But there is that one. Ouch, I bumped my knee. Okay. I don't know if I forgot to show you this. These are all the bent and dull pins that I have culled, C-U-L-L-E-D, culled from my pen cushions. And really proud of them. I don't know if I can recycle them. I think I'll toss them. But they're in a safe container. And see, I just take my small pair of scissors, push it in the top, and there we go. All right. Now, let me do one quick thing. I'll start us at the beginning. And did I tell you that this is going to be a quilt as you go project? Yay! So once we've got all the fabric put on, it just needs to be bound. So first thing I'm going to do is, and since the muslin is a foundation only, I am going to starch it. Now, if I were going to be doing any ink tints painting on the muslin or any kind of painting, oops, come on. Oh, poo. Oh, man, that had some pressure built up in it. Okay, let me just stick this pin in here. All right. Okay, I don't know if this will work, but let's see. When you pay less than $2 a can, you think it'd work. Oh, that's pitiful, but it's coming out. That's all I need it to do. I need to remember to take and turn the can upside down while your fingers pressed on it so that it will clean out the little valve. All right, so now, normally I try to fold the fabric back up and let the starch sit on there, because if I let the starch sit on there, then you won't get the flaking. It's absorbed into the fabric. Now, this is not critical, but I'll show you what I like to do. Okay. So it's a couple inches wider and a couple inches longer than the actual pattern. So now I take this, I fold it in half, and I love muslin because muslin, it's just like having a nice piece of paper when you go to draw your pattern. All right. So I've ironed it in half that way. Then I'm going to iron it in half this way. Oh, and you wait. I hope. Oh, hi, Diana Sewing Adventures. I'm hoping Jody's going to be here. She is working on her next matinee monster. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but somebody gave her a hint and she took it and it is looking wonderful. So you'll have to tune in probably Sunday when I do the show and tell. She's already sent me a couple of pictures, and oh, she's so good at this. And she said, you know what? When she started doing it, she realized she had missed not doing one of her matinee monsters, but it is precious. Okay, so here, what I did is the very easiest way to mark this. And let me put this out of the way. I have one of these like recipe holders that is really helpful. Okay, it does a great job of holding whatever, whether it's my notes for the show or what. All right. That would go. All right. So here's my muslin. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got my piece of batting, and that also should be longer and wider than what's the way to keep the material from fraying? There are several different kinds of products called fray check or fray block, or you can take you can take masking tape and put it all around just the edge of your fabric. All right. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be on the bottom. Then I've got some backing fabric right here. So let me get off a piece of this. All right. So this is going to be the backing. Oh, I didn't quite cut enough. Whoops, come on. I am so tickled that Anne is loving her paper piecing. It is so much fun to paper piece. And this Sunday I'll try to have that underwater quilt and show you what I was trying to explain about. It's kind of tricky, but how can you keep that look of being under the water while you're working on a quilt? All right, let me come down here, make sure I've got it long enough. But boy, I love a quilt as you go project. They're a lot of fun, right? Right now, this is heavy fabric, so this has got to be one of the 108-inch wide. I love when they're on sale. All right, move that out of the way. All right, now here we go. All right. I'm going to take and iron this down, making sure everything is nice and tidy. All right. Now hold on just a second. Where are my pins? Let's see. Nope. I have some upstairs, but I was hoping I had some down here. All right, there's a couple different ways you can do this. But right now, for me, I'm just going to take this and clip it on the edge, or you can take a safety pin and safety pin near the edge, okay? And in fact, you know what? I really should do it from the top because that way I can see and it'll give me a chance to make sure that this, because it doesn't matter as much if your backing piece is perfectly straight and smooth. But it does matter if the front is, although it is going to be covered up. I'm going to take, and so for right now, upstairs, I have a big thing, a great big thing, basting pins. But what I'm going to do, whoops, let me bring this batting over. What I'm going to do is just go around and pin. But you are going to want to pin all the way around the edge and a couple in the middle, just because you want this to be very stable while you're sewing the strips on it. So I'm going to put this here, but I've got a whole mess of these that I forgot to bring down. So I was thinking I got all the fabric picked out, but I forgot that this is a quilt as you go. So I had to have all this stuff ready. So you just take, and I'm making sure that I don't tuck under the fabric where it is going to be sewn down when I put the strips on. But anyway, then I'm going to give it just one more press to make sure everything's good. All right. So now there is another way. I forgot to show you that. One of the ways is you can take it one thread or you can take it two threads thick. Let me bring you down. And what you do is you're going to baste the layers together. Now, normally, if you're going to quilt something, you would start from the very inside. Whoops, let me bring it up a little bit. You'd start from the inside and go out like this in a nice, go up and down the middle each way and then cut the corners and all of that. But the main thing is you're just going, and I would leave this sitting down, put it on a hard surface if you have one. And because you don't want to hold it like that in your hand because then it will, I'm going to get a different color thread. Hold on a second. I want you to be able to see it. And it's also good if you have a dark thread because it makes it easier when it comes time to take it out. Now, since I'm going to add fabric on top of this, I'm not going to worry about basting it from the center. Stay up. Keep forgetting to ask Mark to tighten that arm. But anyway, I'm going to take this needle, and it's a good time to take a great big needle. You can even use a heavy thread. You can use a double thread or a single. Okay. And since I've ironed this and laid this very smooth, I'm just going to go around the edges right now. Okay, but if you were basting this because you wanted to quilt it, then I would say start in the center and radiate out. But this is small, and we're just going to sew strips on it. It's not going to show. The strips on top will show. I'm going to make a good size knot at the end so that I can cut it and pull it out. Nice big stitches. Okay, so nice big stitches Uh-oh, Grommy. What's the matter? Uh-oh. Okay. And this doesn't take long at all. The benefit of going ahead and basting around the outside is that you don't have to worry about removing pins that will show. So I'm going to leave pins on this side and just baste to the corner and a little bit across. And you don't pull it tight. You just pull it smooth. And you come along. And let's say you're going to quilt by domestic machine, you would be doing something like this. Although, if it's for quilting, what I recommend is you take your backing and you tape it with painter's tape, tape it down to a hard surface, then lay your other pieces down, make sure it's all smooth, and then either pin baste it from the middle out or hand baste it like this. So just go up to here, then I'll spin it around and keep on going. There you go. I keep sticking the pin in my ironing board surface. That's why I don't think I'd want to base this normally on an ironing board surface. I'd want to baste it on a hard table. Okay, I'm just going to go to the corner and then let's get started seeing the pattern and seeing what we're going to do. All right. Good. I wanted to make sure I hadn't tucked over the backing before I sewed it. All right. And then I don't even have to knot it here. I can just cut it with a couple of inches. Cut it with a couple of inches to spare, and that will work just fine. Grommy, what's the matter, sweetheart? Are you laying your neck in a funny place? All right. So now here we go. The top and the bottom. Be careful how you fold it because you certainly don't want to stitch your batting or binding in an odd way when you're doing your pattern. So now here is your pattern. Now I was thinking I didn't want to have too many lines. Hey, Teresa. Hi. Jody. Yeah, now I got y'all excited, huh? Here is the pattern I drew. I wanted to make a landscape quilt that had strips of fabric. Now I'll put this pattern on the site. All right. So for my dark blue sky, which this is going to be a sky, a little bit of water, a little water here, a little bit of beach, a little bit of simple mountains. And you notice how everything is like 45-degree angles. It's not all smooth because I want to be able to basically use straight lines across the fabric. Now here is the sunset and some rays coming out. So in this section, actually this section, instead of being 3/4 of an inch, it's half of that. But I will get ready and show you what I mean. Okay, I'll keep my iron on. Got my pencil. My darkest blue goes at the top because that's what happens when you look at the sky. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull this off. And then I will, whoops, that pen caught it, but I'm just going to press this really good for just a second. because when you tear, sometimes it gets a little bunchy. So what this wants me to do is start out with this dark blue. Now, I know we're going to do a stitch and flip method, but to start out, I'm just going to put this along the top. Ouch. Now pull your fingers. I see, I told you I'm dangerous with pins. I'm going to pin it in the middle. I want to keep it from bunching up. Let me turn on my sewing machine, and I'm going to pin it down here. Okay. Now my pattern here has that first one going, the darker blue. I'll see how long I want it to be. But what I'm going to do now, the first piece when you're doing a stitch and flip always has to, pardon me a second, always has to be laid face up because you don't flip the first piece. It's just like if you were doing a paper piecing, you don't flip it. So I'm going to put it under the sewing machine, and I'm going to lengthen the stitch on this to at least 30. And the top of this, making sure I have no metal. Here is the clip under here, and here's the pin. So knowing I don't want to stitch over anything that's going to break my needle. So what I'm going to do to keep this laying nice and flat is I'm going to baste it along the top. And kind of, this is a great quilt to use a walking foot, because anytime you put fabric against fabric like this and sew, it wants to kind of move. It wants to walk on you. So okay. All right, stop at the end there. Okay, so now I've done the top of this, and the quilt is going to end before you get to the end of this fabric. So you don't have to worry about the seam showing. But now let's come back over here. And like I said, I'll have the pattern on our Groups IO, but if you want it and you don't belong to Groups IO, send me an email at, hold on. And this is kind of an easy warm-up for us. Okay, our time to quilt, whoops, UILT at TW, whoops, yep, C.com. That is the email address if you want the pattern. Okay, so I've got it laid down here. What is this? Oh, I did. Remember I said be careful you don't catch it underneath? I did, but luckily all I have to do is cut it loose. And I'll take that off later. Okay, so now here's the first piece. And I'm going to press it because I want the first piece to go well. All right, so now I'm going to get my pattern, come over here. And on my pattern, it shows dark blue at the top. Then the next row is going to be a very light blue to act as a little bit of a cloud, and then a medium blue, and then a bit of blue on the end. So I need a whitish blue. Let me see. All right, get some choices here. Oh, I need to show you something with that black fabric in a bit. All right, let's see. Here is a very pale hand dye that I had done. So I'm going to use that for the very, very light blue cloud. All right, so here are my blues that I'm going to use tonight. And I do have a few others over here if I need them. I brought my scraps down. Oh, here's a good one. This is a really good one. But it's a little light for right now, so I'll save it. Okay. So this piece that I need for this row right here, I need it to be about that long. Where are my good big scissors? I prefer to cut fabric with longer scissors, so it's like one stroke. So I'm going to come over here, cut right across here, a little bit wider than I need it. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it at a 45-degree angle. All right, see, plenty big enough to go right there. So now I need, can use that one, or maybe I'll use the next shade darkest that I have. Let's see. All right. What I need to do here is I need a piece that's going to be from here to the farthest. Whoops, let me. Okay. All right. I need this piece. Stay. Need this piece to go from all the way here to all the way up here. So it'll be long enough to hit that. Okay. Now, I had hoped to have all of these strips pre-made, but they aren't. So I love pulling off and saving now let me see. Yes, that's going to be perfectly long enough. And I need it just over like 1.25 inches. All right. Now I'll move this out of the way. And then I'm going to need some of the very darkest too. Take this strip and I'm going to cut off this piece. I don't need that much of the very darkest. So I'm going to cut right here. And that, yep, that will do it. It will go all the way from here to the end. And okay. And then this piece is going to be this way. So here and there. All right. Then this piece is going to be this way. All right. So now here are my 3 pieces of my next row. We'll come over here and stitch these. Okay. And you have to lay these like this and let each end kind of run a little long. I'll put my stitch back down to a 2.0. And I'm going to just do a narrow join. I don't want to make it too big. All right. Let's see how that did. Yep, there it is. And I'm going to push the seam allowance to the dark. Then I'm going to come down and do here. And see, it doesn't have to be perfect right here because you're going to have a seam allowance. Okay, now this one goes like this. So I'm going to bring this up to meet this line. See? Bring this further up. Well, I'm a little worried I might have this a little crooked. Let me see. Oh, no, that's great. Okay, so now I have my complete stitch. Bring it back over here. All right, here we go. Now take and press this before I get ready to stitch it down. Pressing seams to the dark. You don't want them to show through. All right, let me get this put in place. Put my pattern back on here. And you know what would be good? I'm going to take and I'm going to mark my pattern line on this. So I make sure, because I'd have to keep moving it on and off, but I'm going to mark it to make sure I have my pattern line. And that is a permanent pin, so I don't lose that line. All right, so there's the line. I've got my pattern right where it's supposed to be. And whoops, guess what? I made this piece a little too long. So what I'm going to do is come back in and make a little, this is where I should have measured. If I'd measured and cut the piece, then, so it's okay. I'm going to take off the dark end and take out the excess. I was thinking of putting a seam in the middle, but you know what I'm going to do just to make sure? I'll put it right here, right under it, so I can make sure I'm in the right place. And then come over here. There we go. Yeah. I sew this again. I'll be right back. I'm not going to move the camera because I know I'll get this. All right. But normally what I'm going to do before I start sewing these together is have the strips kind of pre-made. Because for the most part, well, you know, you're going to have some strips that go across, but some, I guess a good many of them are going to need to be edited. All right, so now there, see, that's a pretty good fit. Yep, okay. So let me move off the pattern. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to make, I think the top part is going to be 2 rows worth. So, okay, here we go. So if the top part is 2 rows worth, whoops, got to put it from the sewing part. Yep, then just over halfway, I'm going to put this seam right sides together. There we go, about halfway, okay? And line it up with the edges of your pattern, right? And I'm pinning this one. Normally I don't like to pin, but I think this one's too important. Okay, because I already told you. In fact, I'm going to give it a try. When I work on this week at home, I'm going to give it a try with the walking foot, because I think then I won't get it scooching. So now I'm going to come back over here. And the reason, even though I put it about 1/4 of an inch higher than where I really wanted it, because by the time I sew, that'll be my seam allowance. You know what? Pardon me. I put this the wrong way. It's supposed to be up here, and then I sew and flip it. Okay, I will get this. Give me a second. Boy, go on vacation for a month, and then you forget what you're doing. Okay, so I want this to be about By the time it's sewn and you flip it, a little over halfway. So let me put it back in spot. I'll pin it right here. All right. I put my pins out of the way of the sewing so I don't have to move them. And I'm going to kind of just line up this strip along the stitching, the basting line. Okay. All right, so now I've got this pinned. Come on. Okay. I've got this pinned, then I just slide it under my needle. I'm so glad that I caught that before I had sewn it. All right. Whoops. Make sure everything's laying flat. This is the time to check and make sure there aren't any wrinkles or folds under your work. Okay, and I want a full 1/4 inch seam allowance. Whoops. Let me, okay. This is the tricky part. It does want to move. I will be using my walking foot because if I had the walking foot, I could just stitch along and not have to worry about it wanting to bunch up under the needle. Because you don't want the pieces pleated. And it helps to keep it nice and smooth. Keep smoothing it out, hold it into place, kind of helping it along a little. Okay, so now I'm off this. Now let me show you why this makes it quilt as you go. This is more of a modern type quilt look, and also it's an easy warm up. Easy peasy. Get us back into it. All right. Let me cut off your threads as you go because of it being a quilt as you go. They'll end up being buried in the seam allowances. Now, got my iron on. Now I've unpinned it. I just take this, flip it over. Let me flip it over and press it into place. Now I'm going to try to make my subsequent strips a touch longer than this because this was just long enough. All right. So now for my next strip, but see on the back, this will be quilted. Now you can always come back in and quilt a different type of design. But is Shirley here? Hi, Eddie and Shirley. Demas. I love that. Hi, Shirley. So good to see you. Okay. This is a quilt as you go, stitch and flip landscape. Just something easy. All right, the very next row, we've got to do something again. So it says we want another strip of the very dark blue right here, and then another medium dark. So I think, let's see. Now I think I'm going to go back to this one. I'm going to go back to this one and use another strip of this because I don't want to move too quickly to lighten, or by the time we get further down the quilt, we might run out of our blues. I'm going to make this one longer. So this one's going to go from here, and my pattern, and see, if I do these without sewing them down immediately, I don't have to keep moving the pattern. So the pattern says it's going to be right about in the middle. So I only need this one to go just beyond the middle like this. All right. Then, oops, I threw my darkest blue over there. Got to pull it back over here. All right. Now, let me pull another about halfway, I said, of this strip. Okay. Okay, about right here. And what's going to be nice about this one, so I'll try to make sure where, let me press these really fast. Okay. It's so much easier to sew well-pressed, crisp pieces, guys. So much easier. All right. So one thing I can do real quick is get a piece of my tailor's chalk. And I will mark this. I will lay these down. Now, this one's going to be over here. And this one's going to be over here. All right. Now, take my pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half too, so it's easier to manage. All right. So here are my two strips. And about here, let me see, I can overlap them good. About right here is where, yep, I'm just going to make a mark right across here. So this, they have to be fully overlapped. Pull this way since it's got more room. And let me see. All right. So now I've got this marked. I'm going to come sew those together. I'll be right back to show you how we place it where it goes. Let me bring you over here, because every time I do this, I always, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. All right. It helps for you to be able to see that when you do this kind of thing, I know for bindings and stuff we do this, but what we want to do is this needs to be put, and sometimes it helps me to do this. This needs to be put right here, okay? So if I press it, then I know which way it's got to go. Press it with my fingers, then look at this. You lay it up, you see the pressing point, and you sew it. It doesn't have to be too scary or too hard. And usually they are perpendicular to each other. Okay. So here is this. Now it's always good to cut off this excess there. Now we open this up, and there it is. And this is just chalk, which will brush right off. Now I'm going to go press it and put it in place. Whoops, I did it again. Oops, I did it again. Okay. All right, let me tighten it here. And I've got to remember to ask Mark to tighten up that arm. So I'm going to come in here and make sure that the edges are pretty flat when I press it. And then keep my little snips handy so I can cut some of these wayward threads out of the way. Keep it neat and tidy. Because once you sew it, it's hard to pull them out. All right, here is my pattern. Here is that row right there. I'm going to put it up on top of this one and make sure pattern is straight here. Make sure I got to move it over a little bit more. There we go. All right. So now let me grab my pins. I'm going to pin it right now. So now I know I have to right in place, flip it over, and have it meet the edge. Okay. And I'm going to put these pins up here a little. One in the middle, keeping them out of my way. And this one. Okay. Here we go. We don't have any metal on the ends to worry about sewing through. And bye, Diane, sweetheart. You take care. You don't worry. I am always honored that you choose to spend any time with me, so I'm very happy. Okay, here we go. So now I already know I'm doing this in the correct way. So I'm just going to start sewing and sew enough of a hem that you'll have a perfect row. Enough seam allowance. At least a quarter of an inch. Now none of this has to be perfect because no one's even going to know. And the only reason I'm not doing it curvy is just to start it out easy. So we don't have to worry. It's something that people new to landscape quilting can do without it being difficult. But you don't have to be, this is the part of art quilting I love. You don't have to be perfect. And isn't that a relief? Paper or any kind of piecing, you have to be pretty exact. But this, it's whatever you want it to be. And nobody will know if you make a mistake unless you tell them. All right, now we'll come back to the ironing board and see what we've got. Okay. Take pins out really quickly. Here we go. Now, see how that looks? And we've got the seams right there. So we have a sky that's changing. I think, oops. Look what I did. I stitched it in. There we go. All right. So let me put that back away so I won't lose it again. All right. So this is how we're going to be doing this project. Don't worry if the strips are a little wonky because when you set the next one, you'll set it however straight you want. And here is our quilting on the back. But I just think that this is going to make a pretty easy but interesting quilt design. And at first I thought I would do really tiny little strips. Let's start out with something slightly easier. So now we have a dark blue here, dark blue to here. We still have one more row where we're going to move the dark blue back a little bit. And then this will all be medium blues. And then we'll start with some purples in here, purple blue over here, very light blue for a cloud, medium blue, a lighter medium, dark purple, purple, pink, yellow, pink. So this is going to get a little more exciting. And then as we go down, then we're going to have a sunset, just a little bit of one. And then we're going to have the oceans. And believe it or not, the trickiest thing is for me to find a yellowish blue because I want for the sun to kind of shine down on this little bit of ocean. Then here is going to be the beach. And then I'm excited to see how, by only doing 45-degree angles and straight lines, how that's going to look. Now, for the piece de resistance, I made a pattern of a tree. And that's one of the reasons at the bottom of the beach, I wanted there to be like little mountains, like you're standing up on a cliff looking out over it. So by the pattern, see, you'll have this part right here. So the pattern that little bit of that cliff that you're standing on looking down at this will be here. And on this is going to be a craggy old tree. Okay? Do you see my craggy old tree? What I'm going to do to make my craggy old tree is something I don't really like to use, which is fusible because it's finicky to sew on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pattern on this, and I'm going to, make this in sections, but I'm going to put the pattern on this. And I'll do it with my little light board, draw it onto the fusible, okay, because it's bigger than could fit in my computer to print it on the fusible. And then guess what? My tree is going to be a black silhouette on all the dark water, sunset, and my beach is going to be, I've already picked out the color, that the beach is going to be a couple shades of dark tans, things like that. And then the little mountain cliff is going to be 2 shades of brown black. And then the tree will be a silhouette in black. So I think it's going to be cool. And it's easy. I mean, already I've got 3 pieces put on there. And you saw how easy it was to do it. So it's going to be easy. But then I think this craggy, and I looked for a tree design, a tree growing on a cliff, especially near the ocean, the salt air, the wind, they don't look straight and healthy. So I got a really craggy tree that kind of comes over here like windblown, and it's going to be very narrow. The branches are going to be narrow. So I think it's going to be really cool. I haven't thought about that, Laura, but I would have to buy some. But once I draw this onto this, and I'll have a couple little pieces and I'll have the orientation put there. I thought about taping them together, but I don't know if I can do that. I'll have to see. But anyway, once I do this, and then I'll iron, after I cut it all out, I'll peel off the paper, lay it on the black fabric, and then cut it out for the final time. Then peel off the final paper, because this is paper on both sides, and lay this out. When all the strips are on, then I'll lay this on there. Do you think that'll be cool? So this is going to be our welcome back warm up. And I think I'm going to have it pretty far down to the bottom. And I think that'll be cool. And I wanted to keep the branches nice and thin so you can see plenty of the beautiful strip background. So we've made a pretty good start. I'm going to have all these patterns on the website, or write to me and say, can I have the pattern of the new stripper beachscape, the strippy beachscape, but it's just going to go down like this. And then you know what I was just thinking? This is going to be all the quilting this gets for the background. Well, guess what? It does look like an intricate tree, but it's not if you fuse it. That's the key. That's what makes it easy. And it doesn't have to be exactly to your pattern. You can just wing it as you go. But when I do the invisible threads, I'm going to get my dark, smoky invisible thread and zigzag it down. That'll act as a little bit more, or if you don't want to zigzag it, use a matching thread and stitch it. Just stitch it down. And then that way, from the back of the quilt, it'll look like part of the quilting. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows done so far, because this would count as 2. And I'll pick my next color. And the main thing for me when I'm doing this is to pick a graduation of colors. And here are some of my choices. is just to have a nice graduation of color. And look, don't forget, I've got this, and I even have more of this in a darker color. But so this would go between this and this, and I might even, I've got some more right here. This is probably too dark. I don't want to go backwards. Isn't that cool? But yeah, here we go. So like where maybe this would come next. I'll have to see. But as you can see, just have your graduation of colors. See if you can find a good conditioned use. I love Janome. I love Juki, although I've had a couple problems with it. But I do still love my Juki. If you have tons of money, Bernina is wonderful. And, I might even keep this in the mix too, even though I've already used it a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to have some yellows and oranges and purples and pinks for the sunset. Then I'm going to have some tans. Now, when I say beach colors, I'm not doing light because I want this whole quilt to be a little bit more somber. So it's going to be a dark beach, like it's almost nighttime. And then the browns of the cliffs. You know what? Yeah, Brothers actually have been really making some good machines. Pat has an amazing machine. I think it even tap dances. I swear, I think it does. So it's a beautiful machine. All right, so there we go. And this is just a matter of tearing or cutting 1 1/4 inch strips, deciding how much you want to show, then working the pattern in there. So, and I tried to keep this one not too big. So it still will probably, to get it all on the computer, it's probably going to be, 4 printed pages, but they're kind of small. And then this, this might take up some space, but you can decide whether you want to print this or draw your own. So that all worked really good. In fact, I'm going to take this up tonight and go ahead and draw this on my steam machine too, and then iron it to this, and that will be good. Always remember, I love Taylor's chalk. It's very inexpensive, and it does a great, great job. All right. Oh, and this would look really pretty in the sunset. So I will be keeping this in mind too. All right. So there we go. Decide what you want the machine to do. Oh, Lisa's a great one to ask for it. So, all right, everybody. So this is going to be more of an evening scene, not a daytime scene, because I only wanted to do a silhouette tree. I didn't want to get into bark and all of that stuff. We'll do that later on in the season. But I will make sure to get these scanned into the computer and ready for you to download. And I hope you see that this is going to be a different style quilt than we've done, and that it truly is going to be a little easier than what I sometimes get us into. And because I'm one of these people, if enough is good, more's got to be better. So thank you for joining me. Welcome back to Art Quilt Thursday. And I think this is going to be a fun thing to do. Okay? All right. Use whatever kind of fusible you want, or do whatever method. And you can use my pattern of a tree, or you can use your own. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad you didn't forget me. I'll see you next Thursday. I'll also see you this Sunday when we can see what have I been doing with the triptych quilt. And have I sewn down all of those 450 pieces? Take good care. Have a great couple of days, guys, until I see you again. Bye-bye, everybody. Y'all are the best. It's so nice to be back. Bye-bye, guys. All right. Take care. Take good care.